Hello and welcome to today's daily news analysis. So as always, we are doing the Hindu newspapers Delhi edition. Now today I found a lot of things that are of interest from the point of view of GS1 society. So particularly this article, elderly lack financial and social security according to a study. Then we have an article on child marriage and malnutrition. So normally you would notice that I don't really put a lot of things on the opinion section, but today I got some over here. Right, and naturally then about Agnipath scheme that is there, that is not society, but yes, we can do it with society also. Okay, coming to the front page, so 10 lakh persons to get jobs in 18 months announces Prime Minister Modi, and this is in context of the Agnipath scheme, the announcement that was made recently. We'll come to that later. We have the article on this. But the basic thing is that what is being done is that recently, naturally, there is a problem of employment in our country. Unemployment rate has been soaring. In fact, today's newspaper says that it has come down a bit. So unemployment is a major problem, and one of the important recruiters is the government. So here, and a lot of people want government jobs only. So Prime Minister Modi is saying that 10 lakh persons will get government jobs in 18 months. So this will be in railways, paramilitary, army, now recently Agnipath, Agniveer initiative. So in this, the employment is only for 4 years. In fact, this thing is hidden actually, that many a times it's not really the full-time employment, it's contractual labor also. So all of that is part of the data. Now I want to go beyond this article over here because I want to correlate this with the questions that have been asked in the GS3 mains paper. GS3 mains. So UPSC has been asking us about questions with reference to unemployment, using the following phrases: inclusive growth, so GS3 economy, then jobless growth. We need jobless growth. Our GDP has been increasing at 7 to 10% over the years, barring the pandemic time. So 7 to 10%. But the jobs that are created is only 2 to 3%. So increase in growth rate of the jobs is only 2 to 3%. But the GDP, the expansion of the economy is around 7 to 10%. Ideally, it should be, if the economy is going at that rate, so similar should be the rate, increase in the rate of jobs. So that is not taking place. So we cannot term it as inclusive growth, or we cannot see this as a job-led growth. We want job-led growth. Now another theme over here is, let's say the government creates jobs. Government is, there is creation of jobs over here. But what about the quality of jobs? So, quality of jobs is also very, very important. We want good jobs. So jobs in the formal sector, anybody in the economy is going to get a job. You can also be a ready wala also. You can be a street vendor. That means you could be a rack picker. You could be anything. But you want formal sector jobs. You don't want to work in the informal sector. That is your aspiration. That is why every one of us is interested in education, teaching, learning and all those things. So we want the formal sector employment. And what we are seeing is there is casualization of the workforce. So casual labor being employed even in the formal sector. So casualization of the formal sector. How do we move from informal to formal economy? So these are very, very important themes from the point of view of GS3 that we need to work upon. And one more thing. Job ready. Is the youth job ready? We can create jobs. The private sector says we have enough jobs, but the youth is not job ready. Youth is lazy. We have all these educational systems, they're coming out of college, but yet they don't know anything. So that is what NASDAQ says. NASDAQ, I mean to say the IT sector says. And likewise for the manufacturing sector, the job not job ready. And what is the government doing about that? What can be done about that? Reforming the education sector, higher academy and industrial linkage. And add to this, the Skill India initiative. So Skill in India over here. Right, so these are certain things that needs to be done, and Skill India means formal skilling over here, so that they are better for jobs. This thing. Now this again we could have referred to the PIB over here. Now here I have a data with reference to the demographic dividend. So see, demographic dividend means that we have more number of population. There is a bulge of the population between the age group of 15 to 64 years, working age group. So we call it demographic dividend because that means if between the age group, let's say human beings living from 0 to 100 years overall general. So 15 to 64 years is the working age. So more and more of the people are over here population and less over this age group. So that means less dependent population. That means more productive population. So we are experiencing a demographic dividend over here. But we don't have enough jobs, and that too quality jobs, formal sector. 10 lakhs is nothing. 10 lakh persons to get jobs in 18 months. The government is ought to create at least 1.8 million jobs. So where is that data? So there was this data from this report itself. It says that 183 million people would be, so 183 is around 1.83 crore people. So, sorry, 18.3 crore people over these years, right? So we need to create as many amount of jobs. So at least we need to create about 1.8 crores of jobs every year. That has to be done. So we are nowhere near this figure. We need to do a lot more on this front over here. Okay, moving on to the next article. So these are some perspectives that I wanted to share. Now this thing I actually mentioned what I want to cover. So here we have a data on the wholesale price inflation. So it says it quickens to 15.9%. Now I'm giving you some task. Wholesale price index is released by which agency? If you can mention in the comment section. Okay, so wholesale price inflation. Yesterday's news was telling us that retail inflation has come down or it has moderated, but wholesale price inflation is increasing. And explain the logic over here. Why is it of concern? So let's say when you buy something from a retailer, so that means when you buy something from a shop or any service that you take also, so that also, let's leave the service aside, just let's focus on the goods. So the retailer is buying, the shopkeeper that you go and buy things, let's say you buy pens, he buys it in bulk from a wholesaler. So the inflation that this retailer is actually experiencing, so inflation at the wholesale level or inflation which the manufacturer is experiencing, so that is known as the wholesale price inflation, WPI. And the inflation that the consumer experiences at the last level, that is the CPI. So if the rise in prices is very high at the wholesale level, so naturally this will eventually be transferred over here and ultimately to the end consumer. So that is problematic. That means that the inflation actually is going to increase, at least for the goods, because WPI normally, services are directly sold to the end consumer, but when we refer to the wholesaler, it is basically with reference to goods. For example, buying pens in bulk, and you buy one pen from a retailer, or it could be for notebooks, or it could be, it's more of my fondness with the stationery actually, when I'm giving you so many examples. Onions maybe, right? So retailer would buy it in bulk, we buy only 1-2 kilos of onions. Pawar meets Mamata. Political news. The non-BJP parties wanted Mr. Pawar to be the president, which he says, I'm not interested in being just a nominal head, no real power. Okay. ED questions Rahul for over 11 years, right? I think political over here. Yes, we should know what is the Enforcement Directorate, what is the purpose for which it was launched. So these are certain things we need to keep an eye on. And ED works under which ministry? Okay, now straight away coming on to the opinion section. So one is on the cold comfort. Despite the easing of retail inflation, there is no room for complacency. So same things which I have actually explained is, or maybe more or less would be covered over here. And so this will tell us about what all things are there, and this will tell us about the brief analysis, which it doesn't really, why is that inflation there, what can be done. But I'm not taking this up because we've already discussed it. Okay. End the war. Russia has the primary responsibility for a peaceful settlement with Ukraine. Okay. Now these are the articles that should interest you for your examination. Malnutrition in India. In fact, yesterday yesterday with reference to biofortification, I had referred to malnutrition, and I said that this can be a very, very important theme. So this is there. Now the C factor, and C is basically referring to the cyber weapons. Cyber weapons. Now we are not concerned about what cyber warfare is actually taking place between Russia and Ukraine. We're not concerned about it. Nobody is going to argue with cyber attacks what took place in this thing. We are concerned about cyber security of our own country. The safety and security of our country, the safety and security of the people over here. So we get the importance of cyber security, cyber weapons over here. With reference to Russia, Ukraine, we have to adapt it in the Indian context. And yes, we do get some examples of the cyber warfare, some examples over here. So very important from the GS3 point of view. Then this article I have taken up, the way to end child marriage, and the dictates for doctors. This is not, at least I'm not interested right now. We have a lot of articles anyways. Now coming to the C factor. Right, I hope you get this. So we are concerned not with Russia, Ukraine as such, we are concerned with from the Indian perspective over here, even though this article does not talk about it. And for this purpose, for this issue of cyber security, we have a cyber security policy 2013. It talks about having a digital army. It talks about having a digital army means a manpower for defending against cyber attacks from, let's say, Pakistan, China, or any other country. Or what sort of system, what sort of framework should be there. In fact, an analysis was asked or critique was asked in the mains examination in GS3 paper. Now, cyber warfare separately has also been asked. Then other initiatives like Cyber Dome project with reference to Kerala was asked. So we have to keep an eye from the point of view of GS3. Now, more recently, a new paper is coming up. It's like it keeps getting extended. National Cyber Security Strategy. So it was 2020, then became 2021, and now it will become 2022. So it is not yet public, but this is under wraps. It is to be made public. So National Cyber Security Strategy 2021. Okay, now let us see what all is happening with reference to Ukraine, Russia, according to M.K. Narayanan. So one is, he says that cyber warfare or cyberspace is often touted as the fifth dimension of warfare. I get, okay, fine, land, army, navy, air force, maybe space, and now cyberspace. One of the generals of the US Army had remarked that we can have a cyber Pearl Harbor and paralyze nations and create a profound sense of vulnerability. So what happened in Pearl Harbor in USA? Japanese had attacked and they were absolutely paralyzed, what to do, what not to do. And then again that attack had taken place, the US went into the World War. So create a paralysis kind of an environment, just unprovoked, not unprovoked, just create an shocking thing, surprise element. Suddenly it had happened, nobody had expected. Suddenly Japanese planes were attacking into the US Pearl Harbor. Okay. Just a second now, just a second. Actually light is not there, and I hope the recording is taking place. Fine, I'm proceed. Oh. Yeah, we're back. Okay. So seems there was a problem with the pen, and actually it's very hot right now. Yeah. Okay. So what the US is saying that we can have cyber munitions inside America's critical infrastructure and detonate them in the event of a conflict. So the Koreans are saying it, North Koreans. So they have some sort of cyber munitions. That means some sort of things that can be used for cyber warfare against the Americans. Now, with reference to the Ukraine war that is taking place, so Russia has attacked Ukraine's electric grid. So that means the critical infrastructure. So electric grid has been harmed. Now we can say that applying it for the Indian context, banking system, financial sector can be damaged. Transportation, urban transport, signaling system, all of this can be damaged, and it can bring the country to a standstill. But here only reference of electric grid is there. On the other hand, we have reference of the Ukrainians who have been able to stop number of cyber attacks coming from Russia. So defensive capability is reflected. Then there is this reference of denial of service attack. So distributed denial of service. So you would have seen actually some website is not working and DOS comes, denial of service. So likewise, the adversary country can actually paralyze your systems, right? So that can be there. But in this war, we have not really seen any of this massive, big scale attacks, cyber attacks, which could actually paralyze the economy or paralyze the nation altogether. So we haven't seen as such any of this nature over here. Now this could be because even now cyberspace is not really seen as a war zone, and it is predominantly a civilian space. So banking used by the civilians, your urban transport and all those things, nuclear is again for civil use. So that is there, but it has potential to disrupt the basic things, day-to-day things that human beings or the citizens of a country are dependent upon. Right, so that can be there. So this is a cause of concern, and we need to adapt this. We need to enhance our defensive as well as offensive capabilities with this cyber warfare, cyberspace. Next article, malnutrition in India is a worry in a modern scenario. Fine. I'll tell you why we have more of these articles on society. So there is this data from the National Family Health Survey, which is released by the Ministry of Healthcare. So that is why we have the thing on malnutrition, and the next one is about child marriages. Now I think I gave you this theme on how UPSC can ask a question. So one is that we have been implementing number of schemes. Here we have number of schemes which the government has been implementing to address the issue of malnutrition. And yet, according to various indicators like the National Family Health Survey, the Global Hunger Index, our ranking is very poor. So what is the problem? So something to that effect. And then we also have the issue of micro hunger, nutrient hunger. So here only reference of anemia is given, and anemia is because of the deficiency of iron. Okay, so that is there. So that thing needs to be addressed over here. And the issue of malnutrition is again very problematic, because it not only it affects the development of the human being. So it's a very basic thing that should be there. It affects their ability to work, their cognitive, mental abilities, as well as physical abilities. So that in return, it reduces their ability to be productive, to earn a good livelihood, and also affect ability of the nation to do well, prosper. And population or human resources, our country's biggest asset. So that needs to be rectified over here. Okay. Now, according to this National Family Health Survey, there is some reduction in, we have some facts actually, some reduction in stunting. Stunting means stunt. You know, a child is stunting. The height is reduced. Stunting. Then there is wasting. Wasting means to be thin, very thin according to one's height, in ratio of one's height. Okay. So stunting rate has reduced. But NF, the survey shows that wasting is the most visible and life-threatening form of malnutrition. So wasting is taking place. Then there is also very high prevalence of anemia. Anemia means sleepiness, weakness, especially amongst the women. And with women giving birth to a child, the same is transferred to the child as well. So that is problematic. So developing countries such as India could lose up to 4.505% of the GDP, and India loses about 1.18% of the GDP annually. Now to address all of this, we have certain schemes, new names actually. With the budgets, new announcements are made. So one, we have Saksham Anganwadi scheme. Then we have, this is the Anganwadi is to implement the ICDS scheme. There is a problem actually today. Okay, so the ICDS scheme to implement that. Then we have the Poshan Abhiyan. Then we have, I think these schemes are only mentioned over here, Poshan 2.0. Now, what can be done? We are having so many schemes, and what can be done about it? One is the budgetary allocations that has been given to this scheme is very, very low. Then large number of funds that are given for the implementation of the schemes in the budget are unutilized. So 32% of the funds released are unutilized for Poshan Abhiyan. So financial aspect, budgetary allocations and utilization of the funds, that is problematic. Then we need to follow an outcome oriented approach. The implementation of the scheme is problematic. In fact, underutilization of funds is also an example of poor implementation. Now we need outcome oriented approach. What is the end outcome? What was the result of the scheme? We should focus on that level also, and this should be at the local level. So actually the mechanism should go from the bottom level to the upper levels, the feedback, not from upper telling to the lower people what should be done. So that we need to focus on bottom up approach rather than top down approach. Then it has been seen that education of the mother and access to nutrition, etc., helps with the issue of malnutrition. Even mother is actually, if she's good health, nourished, the newborn child will also be nourished. Then if mother is educated, mother is empowered, she will have the resources to give better diet, she will have the knowledge to give better diet to their children. And we need to improve upon the monitoring and evaluation of the several government programs. Next is with reference to the issue of child marriages. I hope the pen works. Yeah. So issue of child marriages. Now we know that in our country there is an issue of child marriage. Now here this article is pretty good because it is actually correlating the issue of child marriage as to why it is taking place. So one thing it says is that it is actually the issue of social norms. In certain societies it's preferred that the girl child is married off soon. Then social norms apart, not mentioned here, the issue of safety of the girl child in a patriarchal society, man is required to protect the girl child or the woman. That's a responsibility. So marry her off, transfer this responsibility to the other person. Right. So issue of women's safety. Then the issue of poverty, the concept of pariah dhan, women. So the household does not have adequate resources for nutrition of the child. In fact, if there are two child, if there is a boy and a girl, the preference would also be going to the boy because the boy is the apna dhan in that notion, right? I'm not saying that. So apna dhan and girl will go on to the other house. Now because of this, education is also getting affected, education of the girl child. So this vicious cycle continues overall. If actually the things reverse over here, like for example, if the education was given and the woman is empowered, woman wants to work after that, naturally child marriage will delay, naturally because of that. If woman pursues higher education, naturally that will address. And yes, when the child marriage happens, there is teen pregnancies also that take place, and that has very bad effect on the health of the teen mother, as well as the child also. So in multiple ways we get the causes also, and we get the consequences also of the issue of child marriage. It affects the welfare of the woman, right? So that way, then welfare of the child. If the girl is actually educated, overall well-being of the household improves because of that. So that is there. Now it says that the prevalence is higher in rural than in urban India, according to the National Family Health Survey. So according in the rural area it is at 28%, and in the urban area it is at 17%. Now these policy indicators, these indicators indicate what policy measures or where the government is required to give their more attention on. Now here again, coming to the social norms and the poverty issue, we find that more number of child marriages, about 40%, 39% of child marriages in India is taking place amongst the Adivasis and Dalits. Now you can use this information as part of your answer only, so you can talk about poverty or the social status of this of the particular community. So their high prevalence is there. You can use those facts over here. Then higher prevalence among the middle class also, but lower in the very wealthy groups. So this data basically confirms all the facts that are mentioned over here. Right. Now to stop this, we have a law which is now being amended, so known as Prohibition of Child Marriage Amendment Bill 2021. So 2021 means examination. In that, if the bill is being will be under scrutiny, the bill will be under discussion. It's a very, very important issue from the point of view of society. So this can be taken up over there. Okay. Now what can be done? Actually, education has to be improved upon. Education of the girl child particularly, that has to be emphasized. We need to work on the issue of the high dropout rates that are there with the girl. We have to create a better environment for the woman when she goes out. The safety at the household level, safety at the workplace, safety in the markets. So that has to be there. In fact, safety at the workplace would mean it's easier for the woman to go out of the house and get an occupation. Means of communication, again, the means of travel, even if that is improved, that will help over here, right? So naturally these are certain things that needs to be addressed. Social norms can be addressed by changes in the attitude which takes place because of education and awareness. So gradually it takes place. And also law also somewhere challenges the social norms. We need to improve the implementation of the laws over here. Center clears Agnipath scheme. I think all of you would by now already know about it. So within the army, briefly I'm explaining this. So within the army, let's do it with the context also. There is this problem in the one is the create employment. So army is also there for that, which is not a good, which is okay, but not really a nice thing. Okay, so army over here. Now army, there is a problem that forces are not, number of people that are there that are not good number in the sense, if we compare it with other countries, plus the tensions that are there. And we have a high pension payout, high salary and pension payout, which leaves us very little for capital expenditure. And there are people who want jobs. So the government has come up with this initiative known as the Agnipath. Right, so within Agnipath, they will appoint Agniveers who will be appointed for a period of 4 years. So 6 months training, and by the way, the present training system is about 1+ years, but now 6 months training will be there. These troops, these Agniveers, which are troops only, they will be allotted their different battalions, regiments, and they will earn their living for 4 years, and then they will be moved out. They'll be out of the army. So this is the Agniveer scheme over here. So for a short time, and obviously they will have some experience, they'll be able to get a job. That is what the government claims over here. Okay, Now, as part of this, naturally, as I said, one of the things over here is that in this, these people will not get entitlement to gratuity and pension benefits under this scheme. So those are not available. So basically, they will start getting their income from first year, second until fourth year. They will be getting it. Plus, they will be making certain contributions to a fund known as Seva Nidhi. So at the end of their tenure of 4 years, they will be getting that lump sum money, which they can use it for multiple things. Unemployment has decreased, says the labor force survey. Now remember yesterday's labor unemployment rate, I said 7 to 8%. So, and I said governments is a bit soft on that. So it is at 4.2%, and this we have for the year of 2020-21 compared with 4.8 earlier. Okay. Now we have periodic labor force survey. Who does this periodic labor force survey? So this is done by the NSO. In fact, the first video on our channel IASPrimers was on unemployment on this issue only and what all needs to be done. So you can have a look at that also. Okay, so PLFS is there, and naturally NSO is the Ministry of Statistics and Policy Implementation, MOSPI. Okay. Now it says that rural areas recorded an unemployment rate of 3.3%, while at the urban areas it is at 6.7%. That means that the government needs to give more attention to the urban areas. More focus has been given on rural areas, rural centric initiatives like Narega. So that is there. So we need to focus more on the urban ecosystem also. And then we also get some facts with reference to the migration, and it says that the migration rate was 28.9%, so 1/3 of our population migrates, and the migration rate amongst the women was higher in rural areas, so was 48% and 47.8% in urban areas. So rural 48, urban 47.8. Why is it higher in women as compared to the men? Migration. Can anybody answer this? Okay, so this we have. Now it tells us about this NSO thing with the collection of data. So it says that it does rotational panel sampling design. This is for your pre actually. Rotational panel sampling design. And it gives out data on three things. One is labor force participation rate, worker population ratio, workers to 1,000 worker population ratio. Labor force participation rate is with reference to the labor who's working plus labor who are wanting to have a job, who are in the job market but they are unemployed. And unemployment rate, simple unemployment rate over here. Right, so that is there. Now what can be done with reference to unemployment? So that is something that you can ponder upon. Next is elderly lack financial social security scheme. This is very, very important according to me as part of the GS1 paper. It's not come, but I have an eye on this thing over here. So there is this organization known as HelpAge India. So this has done a pan-India survey, national level survey over here, and this was released at a very high level. This thing. So by the secretary of from the Ministry of Social Justice and Empowerment. You have to note down these facts. Okay. So what it says is that 47% are economically dependent. 52% reported inadequate income, and 40% said they did not feel financially secure. So we get it. Financial security is the issue over here. And what is social security? Social security is basically things like insurance, pension, so for healthcare we need money. So insurance is there, this facility is there or not. So 67% of the elderly who are surveyed, they said that they don't have a health insurance over here. So that is social security. Pension that you are getting is an example of social security. Okay. So one is the issue of financial security and social security which needs to be seen. In fact, overall, what are the issues with the elderly? Then financial and social security. Then the other issue is the issue of health care, geriatric care. So that is there. Now, from the point of view of geriatric care, one more thing I would like to point out. One, we should know the government scheme, so you can get it from the PIB very easily, or I'll post it. So geriatric care, we need to prioritize that. And the one other reason is, today we have a demographic dividend. More and more population of ours is in the youthful stage. These people will get old, they'll get elderly, aged very soon. So naturally we will need more amount of resources. The lifespan of people, life is increasing, right? People are not dying very soon. Plus the death rate, birth rate has also coming under control. So we'll see a bulge over here, and this bulge will be transferred to this. The people who are earning will be actually less as compared to these decades that we are in, and very soon we will have this aging population. So we will actually see a twin of demographic dividend as well as the aging population, and this is going to take place in the next 20-25 years. So we need to plan for it right now. So that's important. So financial, social security, the issue of safety of the elderlies, so that is also an issue over here. And one more thing with reference to the elderly is the dementia, Alzheimer's, etc. So that is again healthcare, but there was a thing about having a policy for dementia. Okay, so that is there, and I think we'll stop at that. I think there are a lot of issues that I have mentioned over here. Okay. So this concludes the session, and thank you for streaming in to IASPrimers with me, Shubhashish. And this newspaper is of great importance. I've given you the issues. Please work on this. This will really help you with your upcoming mains examination, whichever mains you're giving. So bye bye, take care, and all the best.